Greetings, class. This is Professor Palmetto, and for this lesson, we will be discussing social hierarchy and social classes. We will get into these different topics, explain the different reasons why they exist, the how and the why, and just why it's important to understand this when understanding an analysis. Okay, so first off, let us talk about what is natural, because this is important to understand in developing to a social hierarchy and social classes. What is natural? Well, natural means that it derives from nature. That is something that is commonplace and occurs in everyday life, and it's not manufactured at all. So it's not manufactured artificially, it just happens within the realm of Earth or even outer space. It's just natural. It's that has nothing to do with the interference of a man or such. And we've learned to accept this. We've learned to accept what is natural and what isn't. And we have a general understanding of what is natural and what isn't. I mean, when you look at a piece of technology that is artificially built with artificial intelligence is not natural. But if we look at human beings and such, that is something that's natural because that becomes a product of the earth. But then it's not that it was made by somebody else. It was just, happened naturally. All right. So we've been taught this concept, and what occurs in nature must happen to us. That's what we're led to believe, and that our behavior is a reflection of this concept as well. A lot of people try to assume that, there's a different pecking order for, animals, and that applies to humans as well. So let's get into this and let's understand this. So we've been taught to believe this. We've been taught to believe in this and how we communicate and how we react and how we behave just in general. But it isn't necessarily true to state that it's only natural that you want to have, so in this case, better merchandise. I want a better product, associate with a better person. Yeah, that's one of the qualities as well. And to become more successful than your peers. It's just competition, being competitive. It's just competitive to do so. And it's in our nature to do so. Because overall, you're just trying to better yourself, right? That's what nature is, that you're just trying to better yourself. Well, this may sound familiar. It's only natural that, and you insert phrase, it's only natural that I want a better car. It's only natural that I want a better home. It's only natural that I want a better life, that I want something that's a little bit more luxurious, that something that I already have something that's meeting my needs, but I want something more. I want something more. I want the luxuries that come with life. But taking into account the factors from before, can the previous features be relied on as natural? What has led up to this? Well, let's take a look. So why do we compare ourselves? Who is benefiting? To choose one over the other, as if we have multiple options. And why is this important? Is there any significance between the choices? And what makes this significance? Do we even have the choice at all? This is an important one, and we're going to come back to this later on in this lesson. From the options that are presented to us, well, we'll take a look. So it's only natural that I pick the better product, right? Well, that's not necessarily true. I mean, better is just one of those subjective words that can mean better in one area, better in the other, and then it's better for whom? And better in what way? Is it better that you are going to have much more ease in life, or is it going to be a bit of a luxury, or is it going to actually function a little better? And the point is that in this day and age, are we going to charge you for something that's better? Because that's what it comes down to. It is seen as natural because of the way it has been taught to us. Something is better, you should get it. It's nature, it's human nature. That's what people say. Oh, it's just human nature that I want this. It's just human nature that I want that. The choices are presented to us, but often they are limited. They are limited in what we have and what we don't have. As to say, look, I want this, I want that. And maybe just the set of criteria that is available to us, only presented to us, or the choices that we have. Later on, we see another choice. It's like, wow, I wonder why I didn't think of that. And many people do. Many people do think of that. Why didn't I think of that? Why didn't I just go with this other option? Well, at that moment, it wasn't available to you. And that's what happens when you have a limited set of choices that are presented to you, when you think you have this freedom in order to choose because you've been led to believe that it's just natural for you to do so. So this leads us to believe that we are free and that we can choose a better product. And unfortunately, this happens with individuals, with people, for this is our nature, that I want this person over the other person. I want to date that person, not this other person. I don't want to be friends with him, but I definitely want to be friends with them. And well, we can only be friends for so much. You know, we could be social media buddies, but we're not going to be buddies in real life where we meet up and talk and discuss and have such great connections as friends do. But, you know, I could message you, you know, every so often just on social media and press like on a post that you made or something, something of that significance, you know, something irrelevant. So let's continue. Individuals have been led to believe that one choice is better than the other. This is taught from an early age and is incorrectly correlated with nature. How so? Because the subjective values have been placed on each choice. The choices are only limited to what people know. Because of those values, others tell you it is much better and therefore you should have it, because the values are subjective into what's better for one or the other. And that constantly happens. You have one product that functions well, you don't need to replace it, but then you see another product and you're like, maybe I might want to upgrade. The problem is that we start doing this with actual people where it's like, maybe I don't want this person. I see that other person. Maybe I'll just be with them, or friends. Or I mean, I've seen people start comparing families like, wow, I wish my family was like that. That's just something that's happened because of what's been led for us to believe in. So society places this value and then it's accepted. And going against this is deemed not natural or unnatural, if you want to call it that way. This is how nature is structured, as people want to say, and can otherwise be called human nature. It's just human nature, right? Right. But as with all definitions, the consensus comes from a mutual agreement from subjective terms. Therefore, in creating this, it allows this system to remain in place. So this consensus, this definition came from individuals who agreed upon labeling our human nature in correlation with nature, incorrectly correlating it with nature as in what happens because they wanted to associate something with natural laws and such. So therefore, in creating this, it allows this system to remain in place. The subjective, therefore, becomes the objective as it gets codified into a standard definition. So let's look at what this creates in a social hierarchy. So a hierarchy, social hierarchy and social classes are established from the nature. What is natural, as in the natural order of things. Different groups of individuals are ranked in various socioeconomic levels. What does that mean? Well, that means that we have different levels, as in poor, rich, middle class, super wealthy, on how all of these individuals have been grouped. And it's a direct result from our previous concepts that we discussed of a dominant ideology and the hegemony that's being taught as well. So The hierarchy, the social hierarchy that is a reflection of this, is a direct result of the dominant ideology and the hegemony that's being taught to us. We're being influenced, we're being persuaded, and we don't fight against it. We pretty much accept it. You got to pay bills, or you got to get a job, you got to do this, you got to do that. And also, on the choices that you have made, you land in a socioeconomic standing, a different social class, so to speak. So, depending on the choices or lack of choices, an individual is placed in a certain socioeconomic level, just as I was stating. The choices an individual has, it is only limited to what they know. It is important to understand the choices that an individual has is only limited to what they know because of what is available to that individual. Any unknown variables are negligent in the final outcome. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the variables are not known, because it is only important on what's known and what's in front of you and what's available to you. So you're looking for a car, and then you purchase one car. Then later you find that there was another car, maybe much newer, maybe had lower mileage, and then it was at a lower price. You're like, wow, that wasn't available to me because you didn't know. You didn't know you had that option available to you. And I'm putting a really easy example, and we'll get into much more complex examples later in this lesson. But I'm putting this really easy example as an individual, as what an individual can understand from the choice that is available to them, because later on, when they feel that they had that choice available to them, how did that choice come about? So this connects back to the dominant ideology and hegemony that is present. So let's look at a few things on the way that this is structured. All right, so let us look at this level, and it's just a dark gray trapezoid. So in establishing this social hierarchy, who could we put at the bottom? I mean, if we're dealing with the socioeconomic standing of individuals, let us understand that income is one of the greatest factors in determining your status, your social class, and your social hierarchy in our modern contemporary, culture. It's probably individuals who are homeless. And after that, we have individuals who are below working class. Below working class. And below working class are your individuals who are just working your 9-to-5 jobs. Your typical standard 9-to-5 part-timers, temp jobs. Nothing that's permanent, nothing that has benefits. You're not delving into something that's permanent for a 9-to-5 job. It's something where you're working maybe on the side and working part-time. You don't have the benefits. You could be working retail. You could be working at a fast food restaurant. It all depends, where maybe your 9-to-5 job that you've been working at for 10 to 12 years doesn't offer you benefits at all. And you've been working there part-time for as long as you can remember. And maybe you're working multiple part-time jobs and you're earning an income that's way below the average, within, the percentile of the poverty level. And above that, we have working class. So working class are individuals who are in industry, agriculture, commerce, pretty much labor, hands-on, but there are also individuals who work office jobs in the industry, agriculture, commerce, in the tech sector as well, who are working class. Usually working class is referred to as blue-collar jobs, hence the blue trapezoid. But blue-collar jobs are usually referenced and related to the blue-collared shirts or the uniforms that workers wore when they had to perform manual duties, usually with their hands or such manual labor. So that's why blue-collar jobs are known as working class jobs. But there's also office jobs that you could become working class as well. You could fall into the working class category. It all depends on the income and how much you earn. There's a lot of individuals who are working office jobs and even retail jobs that are considered working class. And it is a part of industry and commerce. Or it could be agriculture as well. If you're working at a supermarket, you still have food. Food is part of an agriculture. So it's all part of that same realm, working class. Usually working class individuals have benefits. They have benefits to their name that they're earning uh, salary, maybe slightly above the poverty level, maybe within the poverty level. And depending on if that individual is single, married, has kids, they're working within that trade. And usually it's enough to survive. It's enough to survive. Maybe won't be able to make extravagant purchases, but you're living a comfortable life most of the time. Then we have the middle class. And the middle class is a bit larger in our contemporary Western social culture. There's a larger group of middle class, and usually middle class deals with middle management, or if you have a master's or even a bachelor's degree, you're in middle class. And the middle class are, again, office jobs, clerical jobs, sometimes you're could be a clerical job as well, something where you're in an office, you definitely have benefits and you're earning slightly more than the working class. And this is not to say that you're not working with your hands, because there's individuals who could work in industry, agriculture, and commerce who are in middle class as well. And it depends on how much that you've earned. But technically, usually you earn a master's degree and you're working an office job, or you're working somewhere that doesn't require too much labor. It's usually considered the middle class, not always, but good majority. So above that, we have upper class. And in the upper class, we have lawyers, the doctors, the engineers, anybody who has taken time to get a second degree in education. You finish your bachelor's, you're like, hey, I'm going to go to postdoc. I'm going to go to I'm going to go to law school. I'm going to go to med school. Or engineers, I'm like, I'm going to study for the PE exam. And there's different ways on how to approach that. But yeah, usually, lawyers, doctors, engineers, you're much more secure in your income and in just the way that you're also seen in society. It's like, oh, lawyer, doctor, engineer, the different tiers that are available with the different incomes. So usually you are within that realm, like a civil engineer, a doctor, or even a criminal lawyer. They are making a substantial amount of wealth. Good, it's a comfortable level of income, more comfortable than middle class, and definitely much more comfortable than working class. And you are much more stable. Probably own a home, probably own your car, and you're probably able to take a vacation or two and have a little bit of extra expenses to to spend. Get a bigger TV, maybe take a vacation. You're doing all right, as they say. Then after that are athletes or celebrities. So if you're an athlete or a celebrity, you're in the NFL, the NBA, MLB, FIFA. Maybe you're an actor or an actress or producer, director, or you're into the music. You're in music, and usually these individuals tend to earn more than the lawyers, the doctors, the engineers, and they have a bit more freedom to do so. And they definitely have a much more luxurious life and the expenses that they're able to afford and such. Especially recently now, on how much sport and film and music has been commercialized, in the recent 20th century and now moving into the 21st century. It wasn't always the case. Most athletes in the early 20th century, late 19th century were just almost amateur players. Some of them played for the fun of it, or some of them just earned a meager living. And it was the same with acting and with music. And there's a lot of individuals who are in film and music now who are not celebrities, but fall more into the working class individuals who love doing what they do as artists and really don't make much money. And that's great. Keep doing what you're doing. It's not necessary that you're out there to make money out of it. It's because you want to do it because you love it. And that's the way to go. So after athletes and celebrities, we have public figures. And what do we mean by public figures? Well, public figures, usually it's government work, high level government work, federal government, state government, president, Congress, that kind of thing. So you're like, oh, wait a minute, but I know athletes more than I know individuals in my government. But let's talk. So we're talking about wealth. And there may be some celebrities and athletes who make more than public figures in government, but let us look at these decisions on how these decisions are made. Who are in charge of creating the laws and enforcing those laws? Usually it's government. So while they may or may not make the equal amount or slightly more, the public figures in government have that power to override how athletes and celebrities live their life. So it's about a power structure as well on how they live their life. They can set the rules and the regulations. How many times have the rules have changed in sport and in the arts due to the different laws that are being enacted by the government? That's usually the way it works. And yeah, it's all about power, control, and influence. So we pretty much reached the top, right? Well, no, there is another level in this red trapezoid, and that is the powerful, the wealthy, and the influential. And you're like, oh, wait a minute. But now we were just talking about individuals and public figures in government who dictate the laws. Well, there are individuals who are extremely wealthy, extremely powerful, and influential, more so on how the government enacts its laws. Let's think about this for a second. What phone do you probably have in your pocket? Either a Samsung or an iPhone, right? And with iPhone, Apple. You may be on a MacBook right now, or you might be on a PC, which is powered by Microsoft Windows. So you already have two individuals there prior to the Silicon Valley, as you could say, Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, who have been powerful, wealthy, and influential in the way that they have structured and shaped in the way that you see the world. You have a cell phone, you have a laptop. You're probably seeing this on a laptop, or maybe you're seeing it on a cell phone. I really hope you're seeing this on a laptop. Don't watch it on your phone. You're going to strain your eye unless you have one of those really big phones. Anyway, the point is that you have individuals who are powerful, wealthy, and influential, and they could also influence the way that the government makes its laws. And usually this is done by lobbyists who just throw a lot of money at the government. It's like, hey, why don't you make some laws this way? Nah, how about, how about a slide a couple hundred here? Okay, well, it doesn't work exactly that way, but lobbyists work in order to pursue the interests of the people they represent. So the powerful, the wealthy, the influential, the people that you see, those are individuals who are, influencing the decisions that are made on how you live your life and how, you decide what you own and such. So that's it, right? We reached the top. Well, no, there's a very small top. And notice how every single level is getting slightly smaller. Well, with the exception of the middle class, because the middle class, there's a large amount of individuals in the middle class, according to our Western culture, as expanding on the middle class. The upper class, maybe a lot of individuals there, but there's more individuals in the middle class. More likely, we're born in the United States, you're probably middle class, working class, very few below working class, depending on the area that you live as well. So who's at the top? Who's at the top white triangle? The elite. who own a majority of the resources. And you may or may not know a lot of these individuals. These are the very, very top. You could say it's the 1%, maybe even it's the 1%'s 1%. But they own a majority of the resources. They hold resources in land, in wealth, in energy, transportation, you name it. And a lot of individuals don't know who these people are. They like to remain unnamed. But these are the individuals who most likely influence, well, they influence the powerful, but they also fund the powerful and the wealthy, where they get their money from. Well, the powerful and the wealthy and the influential, they have to get that money from somewhere, and they're usually getting it from individuals in the lower socioeconomic status, which are upper class, middle class, working class, below class. They also have to get their ideas funded as well. They have to get their ideas, and they also have to have a strong backing, especially, a good solid structure. So usually it's the elite that they rely on their support. You reach the elite, you pretty much have a solid standing on how you're going to influence the world. And they could say that those individuals in that red trapezoid who are powerful, wealthy, and influential are representing the interests of the elite who own a majority of the resources, who don't want to be seen in the public light, but yet have a lot of investments worldwide. So this is how our social hierarchy is structured. So why is this important? Well, it's important to understand as in how different socioeconomic levels create these social classes where you may or may not fall into. So different values that make up each socioeconomic level are subjective, as in wealth and influence and such. It's all subjective. There's nothing objective about it. The only reason we state that it's objective is because definitions are stated on the different socioeconomic levels and what's wealth and such, but it's subjective just as the way success is being labeled as, objective, but it's not. Success is very subjective just on the different values and how we have discussed before. We accept this system in our lives. We accept it. You're like, oh, I want to be rich one day. That's accepting it. There's no way around it. I want to be rich. I want to be powerful. I want to fly in my own jet around the world whenever I can. Well, that would be nice, but why just limit it to a few individuals? Oh, no. You don't want to think that way. That's a dangerous thinking. Well, no, I mean, what if individuals really just travel anyway around the world? Well, no, that's dangerous thinking. We shouldn't think that way. But we conform to it. We conform to the social hierarchy, and we do not challenge these views. We do not question it. We do not like to go against this dominant view. So let's take a further look into this understanding, because better yet, we don't even think about it. We don't think about this structure. Not thinking about this system in place allows the hierarchy to flourish. But when we do, it is not seen as natural to do so. It's not natural. Stop thinking about it. It's not natural. Just work and make money. Stop thinking about it. Get that house, get that car. It is better to earn wealth and not think about the hindrances in the system. Most are only concerned about moving up. We would like to proceed to the next level above us. But the socioeconomic hierarchical structure is set up so the different divisions among social classes cause conflict. So, you're trying to move up to middle class if you're at working class, but there's so many factors that are against you in trying to get up there. Luck is one of them, knowing somebody as well, just trying to get a job. How many of you apply for jobs and you've been rejected? A lot. A job is not guaranteed. It's presented as an opportunity, but it's not guaranteed anything. I mean, you could apply as many times as you want, and then you end up getting the job that you don't want, and you're stuck with that, maybe even for the rest of your life. So this keeps the lower socioeconomic classes subjugated. Anybody who is below that little white triangle of the elite becomes subjugated. Yes, even the powerful, the influential, and the wealthy, due to the interests of the elite. Everybody's working for somebody under this hierarchical structure. You strive to move up, to get ahead, but you must contend with others who wish to do so as well. Almost everyone, but not all, they always fight for themselves. Always look at it for number one. Who's number one? Me. Who's second? Me. Who's third? Me. Me. You're always fighting it for yourself, and you're looking out for yourself. It's a very individualistic culture where you just look out for yourself and really not anybody else. Maybe your family, if you're close with your family. So while all of this is happening, groups of individuals in the higher socioeconomic levels, anybody really who's above you, are profiting from that struggle from the lower social classes. They remain in power, retain the resources and wealth, and remain unchallenged. So you could pretty much believe that the elite at the top are not going to remain unchallenged. They're pretty much staying up there, wherever they are. And let's take a look at this example. Let's look at this circle. This circle with the dots. No. All right, let's consider this circle as, let's look at it and let's call it any city. It could be any city, in the country or in the world, as long as it conforms to our Western cultural ideals. So we have any city. As with any city, we have different sections in the town. We have different sides of the town. You can have the Northwest, the Southeast, different sides, different names. Everybody has a side of town that people know. So let's call this section 1. And in section 1, usually the defining factors of any side of town are its housing prices. So let's say section 1 has moderate housing prices and, moderate crime. You want to move into an area where that doesn't have too much crime. You're like, oh, I looked at the reports. It doesn't seem like there's too many burglaries or too many killings here. I think it's okay. Yeah, and we could afford it. So let's go. Section 1, I'm in. And let's look at a different side. Section 2. We could have section 2 with low housing prices. All right. That's definitely a good choice. High crime rates. I've heard some stuff about section 2. I don't know. Low housing prices, that's good. So, but it's high crime. I don't know about that. Well, let's try section 3. Section 3. All right. Section 3. High housing prices. I don't know. I'm looking a bit skeptical and moving into section 3. Although the housing is nice, but the prices are just a bit too high for me. There's low crime. That correlates with that. Usually low housing prices, sometimes there's high crime. High housing prices, there's low crime. So we're just taking examples of any city, with the different sections that they have. And you can have multiple sections with different variables as well. But usually, housing prices and crime, that's usually the defining factors of any side of a town. How much the property costs and how much crime there is being committed in that side of town. So the housing prices or the property price is the norm. It just becomes a norm. The norms that are made to take effect among the community, and the attitude to each other. It's normal that they stay on their own side. I've known individuals in different cities where they try not to go to one side of the town or one side of the city. It's like, I don't want to go over there, especially at night. Are you kidding me? No, I'm not going over there. Or they go, yeah, I'm just, let's go to that side of town. It's okay. It's that side of town. It's, section whatever. and that's fine. I'm not going to feel endangered, or like something's going to happen. That's fine. Or it's like, oh, let's go to that side of town. Yeah, nothing really happens there. It's fine. I've heard some things, but and that rarely does happen. But you have a different attitude that's set on the different side of town, and you try not to associate with the other side if possible. It's like, hey, we're going to a barbecue. Yeah, all right. It's at so and so's house. Oh, doesn't he live over there? Yeah. Tell him we're busy. Oh, but he's your good friend. Yeah, I don't want to go. You try to avoid certain areas where you feel that you're going to run into issues with crime, or have get encountered with property that has you know low reselling point. Maybe it's run down, maybe it's not up to the standard. It's a different levels, different class levels that you have, the different levels of socioeconomic standing. So it's not just this hierarchical pyramid that you're looking at. You're looking at it from your city, and take a look at examples from your own city on what you see. Are there certain sides of town you don't want to go to? Are there certain individuals from that side of town you don't want to associate with? Are there certain places that you don't want to be in? Just think about it. It could happen with any town, with any city. And why does this happen? Why? The different housing prices that are set. Well, you want to strive to live in a particular area. But why? How so? Let's take a deeper understanding of this. So by submitting to this system, we ourselves become ingrained in it. We accept the dominant ideology. We accept the hegemony and try to work our way in the social hierarchy and remain fixed on the idea of social classes. We become a product of the structure, not by force, but through influence. We welcome it, and it becomes a part of who we are. This is the social class. And as in the example with the city, who set the housing prices? Individuals who accumulated wealth and were able to buy that property and set the prices. So therefore, when you live in that certain side of town, all of your choices have already been deemed for you, starting from where you're born and how you're going to live. And of course, you could change it, and we'll get into that more. Somebody who accumulated this wealth already decided your choice. You're born into a certain social class, and you could live in any city. And depending on which area depends on your living situation, your resources, your transportation, your education, and your future. Just think about this. Where you live, what resources are available. Say you want to get fresh fruits and vegetables, but you live in a food desert. And in a food desert, all you see are, those dry snacks, nothing really fresh that you could get. Lots of fast food places. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love fast food, but I mean, I need my fruits and veggies to go in there as well. Otherwise, man, it's not going to be a happy sight. Transportation. Do I have a car? Do I not? Does the bus come around here? Is there a train, a trolley? Is there something that comes around here? How am I going to get to work? How am I going to get around to school? And speaking of school education, how good is my school in my area? Is it known to have a bad reputation or a good reputation? Do teachers there really care or not? I care. I care wherever I teach, because I want to teach you about all this stuff and how to write and how to communicate. Because effectively, if you don't know how to write, and if you don't know how to communicate, your voice gets lost. And I don't want your voice to get lost. I don't want what you have to say to get lost. And this relates back to your future, on how you're going to live the rest of your life, on the future choices that you made that are available to you or not. So we look at how this relates as a social hierarchy with the social classes. The lower the socioeconomic class, the more difficult it is to move upward. It's just a fact. Education is the key. So do well in school and go to school. And don't just skip school. Go to college, go to university. If you can, get your master's, go all the way, PhD. The more you know, the better you are in improving your area around you. I'm not going to say just improving yourself, because naturally, well, not naturally, but it's just going to come as you improve yourself, that you are going to learn about yourself in this exploration and obtain new skills and new knowledge. So you just don't want it for yourself. You also want to, go back, help your community, help those around you, influence others in a positive way. So of course you can move up, but it is much more difficult to do so. You must contend against others in your position, and working together is limited and minimal. Of course, there are communities that help you. Those are far and few in between. Usually you have to do everything yourself, and you're fighting for yourself. Survival. That's the way this social hierarchy is set up, along with the social classes, due to the dominant ideology and the hierarchy that's stated and being taught and being lived. So the lack of support and resources is against you. It really is. If you live in a lower socioeconomic class, usually the higher up in your socioeconomic class, the more support you have, the more resources you have. And this comes down to, your family as well. Does your family care about your education, or does your family care more about just putting food on the table? Because let me tell you that there's a lot of individuals who are intelligent, but they may not be able to reach that level of education because of the different shortcomings that they have, the different hindrances that they have placed on them due to their socioeconomic status. And that's why it's important to recognize this and understand this if you are going to school, and let individuals know that, hey, I need help, if this is in your position. So if you do make it out, somewhere has already profited from this struggle, sad but true, at your expense. The little expenses you have already been profited. So even if you fell or you succeeded, somebody else already did. And this really wasn't your choice now, was it? You're going to say, oh, I'm going to struggle along and give all the benefits to somebody else, right? Because you probably didn't even know about it. And that goes down to the choices that are available to you, because you didn't know about this choice. So really, are you free to choose what you want when somebody else who's accumulated wealth and resources bought property